Hello, everyone. This is JVL here with my friend AB Stoddard. Welcome to the dark side. AB, a couple hours before we sat down to tape this, the Supreme Court rushed out. They had an expedited ruling. It was so expedited in the Colorado 14th Amendment ballot disqualification case. I will just set the table here for people who don't recall. In Colorado, a group of Republicans sued to get Donald Trump removed from the ballot of the Republican primary because of violations of the 14th Amendment, which was set up to prevent people who had attempted an insurrection in the Civil War from getting reelected to federal office and insurrecting again. They won their case at the state Supreme Court level, and the Colorado primaries March 5. So Trump appealed, and the Supreme Court took it up, and they went from the day of Trump filing his appeal to the Supreme Court's decision in 8.5 weeks. Amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about why the timeline is important, but I guess just as a practical matter, are you a Spinal Tap fan?
Sorry.
No, didn't love Spinal Tap. Okay, well,
I mean, it's
Nigel
just too long
Tufnell.
ago. I haven't rewatched because I wasn't an addict. So I should revisit, but it wasn't such a favorite that I have.
At this point, I raise a practical question. Will we be playing Stonehenge tonight? No, we won't be playing Stonehenge tonight, right? So the 14th Amendment is now a dead letter. So the Supreme Court has ruled that actually it's only Congress that can remove presidents from the ballots because it's all just one big election. It's not 50 small elections, which is what we keep being told by all the people who are election deniers. So we can't impeach people anymore. We can't remove insurrectionists from the ballot. Does it seem to you like basically there's nothing but incentives for people to try to overturn elections from here to the horizon?
Yeah, this is amazing because we knew what the outcome would be. And we even knew that during the oral arguments, the liberals were sort of, warmed to this idea that they couldn't do this and were skeptical. But the constitutional experts have been telling us for so long, and you've discussed this, this is one more guardrail we just can't use, that this
No,
was
not this one.
This was a clean and clear authority of the state, not of the federal government or the Congress legislature, to disqualify people from their own ballots. And so for months, knowing that this is open and shut, black and white. Judge Ludig right now is somewhere sobbing. But we also knew that they were going to reject that argument, and we didn't know how they were going to do it. But they were going to say, so what they have done is they're comforting themselves by avoiding the question of insurrection. So they didn't say that he's not an insurrectionist. They didn't clear him. So they're not totally in the bag. But they did say that to disqualify a federal candidate, you have to go to the Congress, which is insane and never going to happen. And so it is an open door, as you described.
It's amazing. And Amy Coney Barrett has a passage in there, which is going to be quoted everywhere, where she says that, out there, you people out there, don't go getting upset over this.
Listen.
Don't go getting upset, because what they're doing is taking the temperature down.
Yeah.
They're taking the temperature down during this heightened time of passions rising and flowing and the animal instincts, and that's all they're doing. They're choosing to take it down.
Which is such an indication of how they're going to rationalize delaying on the immunity decision. Because as you have always described, they must do everything possible to avoid having an effect on the outcome of this election.
Yes.
So they are just too busy.
So this is why the 8.5 weeks is important. We have this other case, this other Trump case being appealed to the Supreme Court concerning whether or not he has total immunity. This is can Biden have SEAL Team 6 murder Trump? That's the question.
Right.
And Trump is saying, yes, this guy who's the head of a crime family, who's the most corrupt and remorseless criminal who has ever been in charge of America, he has the legal right to murder me. Which, anyway, so that case, which Trump doesn't want to go to trial, they are going to be 10 weeks from the date of Trump, more than 10 weeks from the date of Trump's filing of his appeal, just until oral arguments. Right. And then probably another 8 weeks at the earliest until we get a written decision. And it's just, but that's because they can't rush these things. And, well, it's complicated. And this is the law. We can't just go, we're not on the timeline of an election. That's amazing.
That Coney Barrett just described as a very volatile environment.
Yeah.
And the court doesn't want to raise temperatures. It seeks to lower them. So it's not like we should have clarity on whether or not a president has absolute immunity after he committed an insurrection before we vote on these 2 tickets in November. It's not as if the government should provide that information just on the immunity question, right? They're not.
Yeah.
By the way, happy anniversary of the January 6th federal trial was supposed to start today, if you so celebrate.
Right.
March 4, brutal. It's not like they are weighing in on insurrection. They're just weighing in on immunity, JVL. And we know how it's going to come out.
So sorry.
I mean, they're going to say he doesn't have absolute, but they might tickle his feet with a few caveats to make him feel
Do you think it'll be 9-0 the way this one is? So the 14th Amendment case is 9-0. The liberal justices sort of, bit down on a stick and just didn't file dissents. And so we got which honestly, so here's the thing. I say this a lot and people don't like to hear it. The Supreme Court is not a judicial body. It is a political body, and it has always been thus. It's not like it used to be all about the law, man. It's always been about politics. And this is a political consideration that we can't live in a world where a handful of states can just decide that one of the 2 major political parties' nominees don't appear on the ballot. And whatever you think of the law in this, as a political matter, that makes some sense, right? I can understand that. And the liberal justices thought this was important enough that they'll go along with it. Now, also as a political matter, you cannot have a system of laws where the president is simply allowed to do whatever he wants, where the president can send SEAL Team 6 to murder the Supreme Court and have total immunity. I would bet a lot. I would bet a watch. Right. For me, I have 4 categories of bets that I would make. One is a cookie for something that I really don't know about. Another is, I'd bet bet a hundo on something. I'd go all the way to watch. I would bet a watch that when we get the total immunity decision, it is not 9-0.
Right. Because I believe that the conservatives are going to do some carve-outs to muddy it. And then the liberals are going to oppose their caveats. That's what I think.
Yeah. Justice Thomas ain't going to say Trump can't have total immunity.
Exactly. He's just not. He just can't. He constitutionally is incapable. And so is Alito. So
Alito may join him. Yeah, the question is just, is it 8-1 or 7-2? And this is just, again, it's back to the asymmetries that we have going on in American political life right now. And here's another asymmetry. So the Supreme Court decision comes out, and within 5 minutes, the Colorado Secretary of State puts out a statement saying the Supreme Court has ruled Donald J. Trump will be on the ballot. That's it. Respectful, no, nothing was all caps. Everything was properly sentenced capitalized. No, this is a travesty. the left, the conservative Nazi Supreme Court, blah, 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 blah. No, nothing like the Greg Abbott down at Eagle Pass, setting up razor wire and kind of daring federal authorities to start shooting at Texas state troopers. And just like, yeah, this is the rule of law. We're the side that's on the favor of the rule of law. So, yeah.
They did not say this was a rigged decision with three Supreme Court justices who were appointed by Trump?
No.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is that Trump can make this play on immunity knowing that Joe Biden would never do anything.
Yes.
To abuse his
Joe
executive
Biden
power.
ain't sending SEAL Team 6 after him.
He wouldn't even do like a baby step. He would do nothing. And Trump is confident, and so are his supporters.
Boy, howdy. It's not great. But, there's other good news. We got some great polls this weekend, AB. Would you like to tell the people about the polls?
Yeah. One of the things that you and I talk about a lot is how, with no margin and no math in either chamber to their majorities, the Democrats have ushered in this age of bipartisanship that was not even remotely something of fantasy in the Trump or Biden or Obama administrations.
Yeah.
You can keep going back. And like 6 or 7 consequential, productive, meaningful laws were passed with the help of a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, Republicans working with Democrats, because the policy was so good. It was so important to them, they were willing to take a hit and have people in their driveway threatening their lives. Okay. And in the New York Times Siena poll this weekend, we have learned that we know that a majority of Americans think that the economy is in the shitter, and they've told us that a million times. No matter what data you throw at them, JVL, it's terrible because it's vibes. But more than twice as many voters believe that Mr. Biden's policies have personally hurt them as believe his policies have helped them. And 47% strongly disapprove of the handling of his presidency, his job as president, and his approval has gone down from the last New York Times Siena Pants on Fire poll that we had to endure in December. It has just gotten worse. The only silver lining in this poll is that Biden is more likable, God help us, and that he's winning double haters by less than he did in 2020. That is something that is in the realm of the reasonable to count on if you're looking at how this is going to go this year. It is material, right? Those are going to be like Nikki Haley voters, whatever. It is something. But the rest of the poll is a disaster at every level. He's too old. He's too out of it. He's not capable. We don't like anything he's done. We don't know what he's done. Genocide Joe, whatever. It just goes on and on and on.
Now, in my fantasy world, where I get to the poll respondents are in a focus group room, like what Sarah does, and I get to come and talk to them after I read the polls. I would like to ask the people who are like, yeah, Trump's policies were way better for me personally. Name 2 of Trump's policies. Name 2 things that he did. Name 2 Trump legislative accomplishments. There was the tax cut, right? Okay. Now find the other one, Sparky. What was it? He didn't pass anything.
But remember,
he didn't pass anything.
That his voters believe there is a wall, and he didn't pass anything except the first step toward that criminal justice reform is that they now
criminal justice
cannot
reform,
talk about.
Yeah,
they run
can't
against,
talk about.
And they hide from because they got too criticized by Tom Cotton, and it's unpopular on the right. And then the tax cut that by 2018, by the midterms, the RNC was sending memos around to campaign saying, we cannot campaign on this. Do not mention it.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I don't know. So here's the thing. A lot of our friends, I think, look at this, and every time a poll comes out, they want to pick the poll apart and explain why, well, this poll is bad. This poll only had 980 respondents, or this poll's from Harvard-Harris, and Harvard-Harris sucks. And this poll shows that Trump would actually get 53% of African-American voters, and we know that's never going to happen. And I get that, right? Any one poll is going to have problems with it. But internal directionality does matter, right? If the same poll shows movement in a way over time, then whether the poll is right on the absolute magnitude questions, it is capturing something that's happening directionally. And if you believe in the polling average, then you got to believe in the polling average, right? The average is created by having the good polls and the bad polls in there because nobody really knows what they're doing and it's a dark art and everybody's just sort of like guessing their best. And, this is like the wisdom of crowds, right? You can't guess how many jelly beans are in the jar, but all 100 of us together with our guesses averaged out can get pretty close to it. And I do not want to whistle past this particular graveyard. I want to wallow in it and say, yeah, these are problems. But also, I wrote this big piece for The Atlantic this weekend. I don't know if you saw it. I know Sarah saw it.
Yes.
Saying that this is the best deal you're going to get, Joe Biden. There is nothing better. And the truth is, like, Joe Biden doesn't have to pull to an inside straight. He doesn't have to hope that a war winds up turning out the right way for him, or that all of a sudden the economy rebounds, right? He doesn't need help from outside events. He has a very clear path. He has very clear weaknesses. He can address them. He can be out there. He can show the rest of America that Donald Trump sounds at least as bad as he does, and maybe worse. I mean, Trump is mixing everybody up all the time. He's calling Biden Obama and calling Nikki Haley Nancy Pelosi, and he just gets lost in his thoughts as he sits at these long rambling things. Joe Biden has $2 billion to show the rest of America what Donald Trump looks like when he's speaking. And $2 billion worth of advertising to tell people, hey, go out back and look at your boat. It's a pretty nice boat, right? Yeah. You bought that because I'm president. The economy's doing great, right? And this is, he has a clear path, and it's going to be a coin flip, right? Maybe 55-45, maybe 45-55. And that sucks, and it makes us all very, very nervous because the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? Don't tell me the odds, tell me the stakes. And when the stakes are, maybe we transform into Hungary-style illiberal democracy, then a 50-50 shot sounds really, really bad.
Yeah. And the New Yorker's out with a big long piece today where they interview him, and he just believes that he's kind of fighting the last war. He believes that it's 2020 again. He does not acknowledge his erosion of support. So he is not going to change his mind. You make a case, which I agree with, that I don't know if it's too late today, but it's too late at the convention. There's no question. This convention fantasy is there's no way. But it is, when you look at this polling, JVL, what it means is that we're going to have this conversation all year long. Because he's not going to suddenly be more elastic and energetic, and people are going to... Now, it is true that with advertising, you can remind swing voters who are down on both candidates, you were promised a recession and you didn't get one. We have now achieved a ceasefire in Gaza. Maybe he even gets, knowing Joe Biden, he could get to a two-state solution. I have a lot of faith in the guy as a leader, but the people's don't. I believe a lot of things could go his way, just at the age issue and whatever is happening in this polling with this dissatisfaction that's connected to his age and his weakness. It's always the word is weakness. Means that we have to have the conversation again and again and again and again until and unless we see a rebounding in the polls among, I don't know, his base, younger voters, some Latino, Black voters, whatever, where he's hemorrhaging. And then, maybe we get the dramatic event that we're not going to get a trial for any of Donald Trump's crimes. We know that, except for the Stormy Daniels thing, which people will, roll their eyes at and say, I think we learned from Jim Jordan, it's a bookkeeping error or something like that.
Yeah, watched bookkeeping error.
This type of thing. But you also make a good point that I mean, I think Joe Biden can find new voters, and it's really important that the Democratic Party believe that on IVF and abortion and even some Trump insanity that they can find new voters. And you have to spend money and work hard to find them and register them, but that's what he needs, because we don't know who we're speaking to in these polls, but you could always find new people because he has enough issues on his side. And I liked him suggesting the other day, which was, I mean, there is a cute TikTok that I saw that Biden did recently. It was just like personal. It wasn't policy related, but he could do them where he has Trump slurring and saying something crazy about Hungary or Venezuela or whatever he talks about, and then going to some real accomplishment. I was pleased to see today. I'm really trying to find the silver lining here that Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has put together some documentary or some film that explains what the infrastructure law is doing. There are 40,000 projects are coming online. That is the kind of thing that you can share with people, and they can find out really affects their lives or their communities or their grandma's community. That is tangible. So yes, I believe that there's still work to be done that can affect the polling. It's just the age issue is going to bring this conversation back and back and back and back. And back.
Totally
That's
agree.
the durable thing.
Totally agree. The age doesn't go away. But again, I really think people haven't seen Trump. So I always thought Trump is bad on the age issue because he's always been incoherent.
Right.
He's getting worse because it's now no longer just the incoherence and the word salad. It's like he's fumbling for words and mixing things up, and
He's slurring.
This is a guy who, do people understand that his skin does not look anything like what they see? This guy is as pale as death, and he just layers on bronzer. And, if you ever saw him without makeup, you would think that he was a corpse. This big tubby guy with his hair that's whatever that is, right? And layers of pancake and bronzer to make him look like he's not at death's door. I don't know, man.
I think we can count on him overdoing the Adderall and getting some more video that can be shared. The guy he's either on something or he desperately needs to be. That's my take when I watch him. And I think it's unsettling. And I think I think that the Biden campaign needs to go hard. You know what? Joe Biden has a stutter. He may take a second to find a word. He might pause in the middle of an announcement. But this guy is slurring like the guy at the end of the bar. And we know he doesn't drink. They really have to be tough. Because Trump is going to be tough. Trump doesn't call Biden old. He lets everybody else do that because he doesn't like to draw attention to the fact that he's 77, or soon to be 78. I can't remember, but they need to go hard at that something is not right, and that it isn't just his mendacity. There's something, a little bit off.
So I believe this with all my heart, that this is, you always turn your weaknesses into strength, and you attack the other guy's strengths and turn them into weaknesses in campaigns. And Biden ought to be 100% on offense on this. And the campaign ought to be, boy, what happened to Donald Trump? Boy, the guy didn't look so good. He barely, why is he slurring his words? Why is he mixing up? Barack Obama doesn't look a lot like Joe Biden. At least Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi are both women of, not even roughly the same age, right? Pelosi's 30 years older than her. Mixing up Joe Biden and Barack Obama. Ugh. And just throw that out there. And the more you needle Trump over it, the worse he'll get.
Oh, yes. It makes him nervous.
Right? Once you're in his head. Yeah. Once you're in his head, hit him over and over again. So don't go saying, oh, this poll stinks, and I'm not going to believe it. Believe them. Believe them all, and figure out how we're going to get from here to there.
Just like you said, you have to respect the trend lines in polling. You can't be in denial about that. It isn't 2020. This country has changed so much. It's gone through so much. It's just not the last election. So these polls are real, and it's really scary. But at this point, like you said, if it's too late, to have someone else or whatever, then there's a lot of work to be done. That's all you can do is hope that Democrats are motivated enough by their fear to work harder at doing the things mechanically that, the rest of the country that we don't even know about, right? But that where you target people and you find them and you make sure that if they, if you find out if they voted in a primary, if they only vote in generals, if they ever vote in midterms, and you get to them. And that's the mechanics of politics that cost so much money. That's on Biden's campaign. They must do this because they must acknowledge that these polls are real. It's fun for them to say, oh, it's too early. We didn't like the sampling. But we just have to hope that, this is as serious as a heart attack.
I really do believe that the hidden gold for Biden is suburbs. And that, the suburbs have typically been Republican under, starting with Trump and then even picking up more with Biden's reelection or Biden's election. They swung decisively towards Democrats. But I don't think that margin is anywhere near what it could be. I think when you look at the demographics on education and income and what people do for a living and the ages, the suburbs could look like the urban cores. And there's no reason that Biden can't be winning the suburbs by 25 or 30 points. And so that's where I think those votes are there to be gotten. Let Trump win the rural areas by 30.
Right.
Let Biden win the urban areas by 40 and then the suburbs by 25 or 24. So
he's going to find those adults. I have grave fear about the 18 to 29-year-old window. Grave. Because they're pissed off and they want what they want and they don't think that Israel is in danger. And it's a completely different, we don't know how they're getting their information. It just is, right? I think that they need to really invest in a buffer of those Republicans who are too ashamed to vote for Trump, Republicans who believe Trump lied about the election and actually lost it, right? And that buffer is essential because I think that I don't know, maybe young people get riled up about Roe again, but I just think at this point that seems to be their biggest problem. And they could, like you said, do well in the suburbs, but I think they're going to have to focus on that 29 and over and really turn it out because these kids today, JVL, you can't raise...
the kids. It's always the kids.
Sure.
All right, AB, we'll do this again next week. Till then, good luck, America.